Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And I have a project for you today that is a birthday card. Get back to Christmas here in a minute. We'll do some last minute, fast, easy Christmas cards. But I was in need of a birthday card, so I put this one together and it was so much fun. I thought I would share it with you. And it is one that uses some acetate and some vellum. I'm kind of into vellum here lately. And so let's just get started. So here is my project. This is a kind of a fun one, I think. And I used, let me tell you what products I used here. I put this on a Highland Heather Base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I have a piece of gorgeous grape that I cut to be the size of the card front. So it is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. And then I used the second largest of the stitched rectangle frames and cut out this border to go around our card. Then the inside of the card, I used the piece that I cut away plus a piece that is 3 1/8 by 4 3/8, which fits inside, but we're not going to do that. We're going to put it together a little differently. I'll show you the inside of the card. There we go, just a little bit different, and I'm really pleased with the way that came out. So then I am using a piece of acetate. Now this one has already been embossed, but I'm going to do one with you so you see exactly how to do it. It's very tricky, and so I want to make sure that you understand exactly how to do it in order to get the best results. Now, if you try the acetate and it doesn't work, I also have a fix for what else you can do if it absolutely you can't get it to work. All right, and then we need a pretty good size piece of gorgeous grape, and for this, I stamped and cut out my images again. I learned a little bit since I started this one. And so I embossed those and cut them out on the darker paper to back the ones that are on the acetate. And if you had trouble with the acetate, then I would suggest that you emboss and cut out ones on both the light Highland Heather and the darker gorgeous grape, and that will solve the problem. Okay, so let's get started here so I can show you exactly what I did. And we're going to start with the piece of acetate. Now, what I'm going to do is grab my piece of acetate, and once you cut it, I think the smart thing to do is don't handle it with your fingers. It's very easy to get finger oils on, and it's very easy to get stray powder on, and I didn't even use my embossing buddy. I cut this piece, and I literally, because of my experience with the first one, picked it up with a Kleenex so that my fingers have not touched this piece at all. There's no fingerprints. It's absolutely pristine. And so I'm going to show you what you need to do to make this work. And then, like I say, I've done one just to make absolutely sure that we get one done here. So I've got a clean piece of scratch paper, and I'm going to keep this little Kleenex here because I'm going to need it to pick up my paper, and don't handle it. I'm very serious about this. The minute you put your fingerprints on it, you're not going to be happy with the results. Okay, so this is from the Beautiful Friendship stamp set, and I love this stamp set. I just think it's wonderful. So what I'm using is this large stamp here, and that's the one up in the corner, and I'm using this little stamp down here for the little flowers in the corner, and I'm using Versamark white embossing powder, and there is one bit of stamping where I used the gorgeous grape on the inside. All right, so let's just get started here, and I am using some of our pretty polka dot tulle ribbon. Okay, so I have my stamp mounted here, and what I'm going to do is take my Versamark, and I'm not going to use my embossing buddy on this because it really hasn't been touched. And I found that once you use the embossing buddy, it was impossible to get the embossing buddy powder off. So I'm just going to take this little stamp, and I've got it set right here in the corner, and I'm going to set it so that I get an image right down here in the corner, and I'm going to put it in just a hair because we've got this frame around it, and so you want it in just a little further maybe than I did it there. So again, here's my piece of acetate, and I would say that I'm in about a ½ inch from the corner to the stem. Okay, and there is my 2-piece flower. Now, I'm going to pick this up again with my Kleenex, and I'm going to put powder, but I'm just going to put the absolute minimum that I have to on this little corner right here to cover up my flower, and then wipe it off immediately. And then I use a brush to take away any stray powders, and I found that I had to take powder off the front and the back, even though I didn't put any on the back. And the best way to test this is to put it back on a piece of colored cardstock like this and make sure you've gotten all the stray powders off. The one that I did in prep for this video, I did get a few stray powders on the bottom corner, but I think if you're in doubt, put it on a darker piece before you emboss. Okay, so I'll quiet the video while I do this piece. Okay, I was surprised. The acetate held up really well to the powder and the heat. I think it did pretty well. Now I'm going to set my piece back down here on my piece of paper, again without touching the acetate. Okay, here is my larger stamp, and I'm going to take my Versamark to the flower because it's a pretty good sized stamp. All right, and then again I'm going to put that slightly inside that corner, so because we're going to have that frame that's going to come around there, so we don't need to fill up that corner. And I'm going to stamp down and make sure I get good pressure all along, because if I don't get a good image, then we have to start over. So take your time and make sure that you get plenty of pressure along the center of that stamp. And then I'm going to hold this with my Kleenex and pull that up. That looks pretty good. Okay, I can see it from here. And I'm going to slide this over and again pick it up with my Kleenex. I don't know if you can see that or not. You might be able to. So you can see a little bit of that acetate with the Versamark on it. And again, I'm just going to barely cover that floral image and then run that off. You have to make sure you get covered, but That's pretty good. It's nice and clean. I still am going to take my brush, however. I see one little stray spot. I got that same little line. I wonder if is there a line? Yeah, there is a line. It's supposed to be there. Okay. All right. So clean off anything that doesn't belong, and then I will quiet the video again. Okay, I think I got that covered completely, and my acetate piece is still nice and pristine. So I'm going to set that down here and move things out of the way that I don't need any longer. You know, once I got the hang of how to emboss this on the acetate, it really is pretty, very different. And so what we have next is we have some fussy cut out flowers on the darker gorgeous grape. Okay, I have my pieces here, and I'm actually going to use the one that I just made rather than one that I had pre-made, because frankly this one came out better. And so we'll be using this piece on here, and I'm going to do it so that the embossing side is up, so that the raised side is out facing out. The effect of the embossing makes it look like it stayed wet on this piece of acetate, and so I really liked the way that looked. Okay, so I've already stamped and fussy cut out my large flower, and stamped and embossed the little one, and you all know how to fussy cut out, but I thought I would do this one, and I'm leaving a little border around it that is the gorgeous grape color, and going to cut out my flower. I'm going to cut a ways down into the space between the two flowers, and it's really not very difficult because it's big, wide, sweeping strokes on this floral image that somebody apparently must have painted. It's just so pretty. And so there we go, just as fast as that. I've got that one cut out, and like I said, I've already got my large one cut out, so I'm ready to go. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is to attach the acetate to the frame. And so I'm going to take my piece of acetate and I'm going to add my tape, my glue, onto the back of the frame so I don't have to guess on the acetate. And my acetate is cut, I think I cut this to just right around 4 by 5 1/4. So this piece will go on here, and you can see that my flowers are going to be slightly covered by the frame, but then that's fine. There we go. Very pretty. Now then, I'm going to add these pieces on the back and on the inside so that we get the double effect of the darker flowers here against the white and the acetate. And what I'm going to do is add some snail, a small amount on the back of my flower where I don't think it's going to show, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of snail around the edge. Now this flower is liable to end up being larger than the space I've got provided for it, but that's okay. We'll just snip off any ends that are there. But I thought it looked so pretty to show the darker color on the inside. And then I used my dies from the Lovely Leaves. I think that's what it's called. Let me look here. Yes, Lovely Leaves dies. And there's these two dies that cut out a smaller leaf and a larger leaf. And I did those in our green vellum. And I thought that would be interesting, and I didn't want to do any more embossing. I didn't want to push my luck. So I've got two large ones and two small ones here, and I thought that I would be able to add a little bit of snail to the back of my flowers. Let me put my other little one in place. And again, I'm just going to add a little bit of snail onto the flower here where it won't be seen from the back and put that into place so that you see the flower on the back. You can offset it a little bit if you like. And just so that it peeks out and shows. I think that came out really pretty. Now, again, I'm going to put a little bit of snail on the back of the purple flower and add some leaves. We can add some leaves. I'm going to add one to the outside too, and that'll camouflage a little bit of what's going on here. Maybe I can get this one kind of tucked in the corner. I think I can do that. So I am going to put a tiny bit of snail at the bottom of that little leaf and tuck that into the corner here. And so we get some dimension. Now, if I take another of these smaller leaves and put it behind the flowers, I don't like the way that looks. Maybe over on this side. There we go. So we've got, I'm going to add just a touch of adhesive there. I think that will work just fine. And then I have these two beautiful large leaves that we can add to the back of this larger flower. And I want the leaves to be seen, so I'm going to add them like that. I think I'm going to like this design a lot better than what I originally did. And then I'm going to put some so that they show down here at the bottom. And on those, like that. There we go. I've got a beautiful scene of leaves. And you know what I'm going to do, I think, is on this one, I'm going to cut that down a little bit and put these leaves, I have to trim that a little bit so that it doesn't look like I just chopped it off. But if I round that corner, then I can make sure that I stick these leaves down here at the bottom, and then I've got a couple of leaves here that I can do what I did on the top, and that is tuck this in this corner. I don't need much of a stem. I just need a little bit of snail on the bottom of the leaf stem and tuck that inside that frame. And there we go. Now I've got, I'm going to put a little bit of, because of the pattern behind it, I don't think you're going to see any of the glue on the vellum. We'll know for sure in a minute. All right, there we go. I think that came out really pretty. All right, now then, I did want to get a little raised dimension. And I have this roll, I don't even remember where I got it, of dimensionalized double-sided tape. And what I'm going to do is just put this on the back, a pretty good sized piece of it. And I was just thinking, we have that double-sided tape for making shaker windows, and I didn't even think about that. But this is sitting on my shelf here, real easy to get my hands on. So this is the one that I used, and put this in place down the side of my card, trimming that off just a little bit because I sure don't want that to show. And I think I've got just a slight edge of that darker purple flower showing over here. Cut that off, and then let's see, another piece about that long for the other side. And actually, if you can get dimensionals on here, that'll work just fine. I just happen to have this tape, and it seemed to me to be pretty efficient. I'm sure I bought this online someplace a million years ago, before I was even associated with Stampin' Up. Because right now I pretty much only buy Stampin' Up stuff. And I'm going to stick one piece along the edge up here at the top, and one along the bottom. There we go. Now then, peel off my backings here. Now then, I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to stand this up right next to it so that I can get this fitting just perfectly. This original piece was cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's the same size as the larger piece. And if I do this just right, it should cover the whole card front. And there we go. Isn't that pretty? So that we've got the dimension, and that's raised and looks raised from the outside. We've got the texture on the outside and a few leaves that you can feel and some that you can only see. So I'm pretty pleased with that, and I just realized I forgot to put on my ribbon. So I'm going to have to see what I can do about lifting that up a little bit and getting some of this ribbon put on my card front. Let's see what I can do about that. This tulle ribbon just spoke to me for this card. Yep, it looks like I might be able to get away with it. I'm just going to tuck it underneath the frame on that side. You be smarter than me and put your ribbon on before you put your piece together. I'm going to trim that way down because I don't need any of that waste. There we go. So now I've got my ribbon on there, and then I just tied a little bow, actually a pretty decent sized bow. This ribbon makes beautiful bows with all of that tulle. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I do have a video up about bow tying. If you go back on my channel and look, there's one whole video dedicated to faux bows and regular bows and knot bows and double faux bows and double bows and just how to get yourself the best chance to get a really nice one. Okay. And I'm going to let this one have kind of long tails because I think this would be fun with one where they trail down the card. And on this one, I'm real sensitive to how we're going to stick that on there. So I am going to use just a tiny piece of tear tape. So I've got a little roll of tear tape, and I'm just going to cut the tiniest piece of it because I don't want this to show, but I want it to go across the ribbon, and I don't think glue dots are going to do it. So I'm going to take this piece of tear tape and put it down on my ribbon, and actually because of the porous nature of this ribbon, I think that the tear tape is going to stick a little bit to the acetate and hold the ribbon in place, which is a good thing. So let me see if I can get the release paper up. Sometimes if you burnish the tape down really well, then your edges come up a little bit easier. There we go. Okay, so I've got a little piece of tear tape there, and I've got my pretty bow. Let's see, I think I like this side. And I'm just going to lay it across that whole piece of tear tape. And there we go. My bow is attached. Now, we have another little piece to do. And I have a piece of gorgeous grape that is, I'm going to put these dies aside and get some of these things out of the way. I have a piece of gorgeous grape that is 3/4 of an inch and is a little piece of scrap. And then I have my, from Itty Bitty Greetings, I have Fabulous at Any Age, and this was meant to be a birthday card. This one, you see how much fuller this card looks with the leaves all over? Then this one ended up with some areas that weren't full. I'm going to tuck this sentiment, I think, down here on the bottom. So I'm going to emboss that also in white embossing powder to match the rest of the card. Okay, and stamp my Fabulous at Any Age. I just really love the way this one has come out. Get my head in this shot here for just a second. See if I can't get that on there straight. There we go. Oh, look at that. It's straight. I love it. Okay, now I need my white embossing powder back. And this I can just stick in here and then wipe off. And that'll be fine. And I will heat set that and be back in a flash. Okay. Do I trust myself to cut a straight line on this side? Probably. Of course it's not straight. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to wipe off that embossing powder. Put a little bit of snail on the back of this piece, and I am just going to tuck that into the corner of this frame. So I'm going to see if I can't get it either just right along the edge or actually tucked under, and it looks like it's going to be right along the edge. But there we go. Fabulous at Any Age. I think that came out beautiful. Okay, so what I did with this one is, because I had these wide open areas here and I don't have that on here, I used some of our everyday sequins and I used the white ones. So I think I am going to put a couple, and I think I'm going to stick one right down here. Am I? You know what? I'm going to switch off to rhinestones. I think the rhinestones are going to dress it up just a little bit more. I have some rhinestones here, and I really want one of these little itty bitty ones for right down here in the corner. And then I'm going to take one of these larger ones and set it right up here on my leaf, and then maybe one of these medium ones kind of in the middle right here. There we go. I think, well, you'll have to let me know. I like bling. I like shiny things. Both of them work. It's just a matter of which you like better. I'm clearly forgetting that we have the inside of the card to do. So let me show you what I did for the inside of the card. I took the section that we cut out of the frame because I didn't want to waste that, and so I cut a piece that was just 1/4 of an inch inside that, and this piece ends up being 3 1/8 by 4 3/8. And I thought that I would take my stamp of my little flowers and my gorgeous grape ink and put that image of the little flowers down on the corner of this little white card on the inside. And let me grab my Pierce mat. And so right down here in the corner, there we go. Now then, what I did was I put some glue around, that's exactly what I did do, yeah, some glue around the edge of this one on the inside of this little piece and set it up so that it offset just a tiny bit to this side like that. And then I took a small length of the ribbon and affixed it on the edge. And because it's the tulle and you can see through it, thought it'd be kind of fun to put it on there so that we could see the ribbon on the back side, or over the flower, I mean. So am I not putting that in the right place? I don't think I am. All right, so putting my tulle ribbon so that it just covers the little flower and the white edge and a little bit of the purple, and I think that's very attractive. Then we'll add some more glue to the outside of this and put it on the inside of the card. And there we have an inside that's a little bit more interesting, and again, a little bit different. There we go. I love the layout of this one much better. And I just wanted to do it a couple times so that I could assure you that that process is repeatable, particularly if you're very careful in not handling the acetate. But there is my project for the day, and I'm just tickled to death with it. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. It would be lovely to have you on my team as well. And let's see, this is December, so my prize draw is Bundle of Your Choice out of the new mini spring catalog that'll be coming out. I think they started mailing them this week. So if you've ordered with me in the last 6 months, you probably have a catalog on its way to you. And if you don't have someone that sends you a catalog, let me know. I'd be happy to send one to you. Send you the annual catalog and the new one starting in January that goes through June, and there's lots of sales, celebration. There's lots of incentives to join Stampin' Up! There's just a lot going on. So that's it for me. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!